Hello and welcome to NewsX World. I am Pia and you're watching the World Report. Let's take a look at the headlines this hour. Following the Trump-Xi meeting at the APEC summit sidelines, the United States has agreed to suspend Donald Trump's 24% reciprocal tariff on China for another year. Israel has received the bodies of 2 deceased hostages as part of the truce deal. The identities of the hostages have been confirmed as Amiram Cooper and Shahar Baruch. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has denounced US's nuclear testing announcement, stating that it is a regressive and irresponsible move and a serious threat to international peace and security. South Korean President Lee Jae-myung has stated that the Asia-Pacific region is set at a critical inflection point with a rapidly changing global economic order as he's chaired the APEC summit in Yeongju. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has denounced Russia's massive drone strike on Ukraine's thermal plant that has claimed 3 lives. Zelensky has stated that it is an outright terror and the world must respond to this. Taiwanese President Lai Ching-te has once again rejected China's one country, two systems policy. He has asserted that Taiwan will resolve to defend its freedom, democracy and sovereignty. The Turkish Foreign Ministry has stated that Pakistan and Afghanistan have agreed to extend the ceasefire for at least another week as both countries plan to meet again at a higher level gathering in Istanbul. Hurricane Melissa has confirmed death toll has climbed to 49 with at least 30 people dead in Haiti and 19 in Jamaica. Forecasters estimate up to $52 billion in damages. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance has defended the decision of U.S. President Donald Trump in resuming nuclear tests after a halt of 33 years, calling it important for American national security. The directive issued has generated widespread concern and condemnation from international bodies working for arms control. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi has called the United States' plan to resume tests as regressive and irresponsible. These remarks are significant as Iran has faced sanctions from the West for pursuing its own nuclear program that it insists is peaceful. U.S. President's decision is largely seen as a strategic and political signaling rather than a technical necessity, as the United States has already in possession of an extensive and reliable nuclear stockpile. The move may reignite a nuclear arms race with China and Russia while paving the way for continued tests by countries such as Iran and Saudi Arabia also that have long sought a nuclear umbrella. The Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty, signed in 1996 to prevent further nuclear testing, has now come under strain after this particular decision. However, the United States has not yet ratified the treaty, while nuclear powers such as India, North Korea and Pakistan have also not signed it. Meanwhile, the U.S. administration is going ahead with the directive, and Vice President Vance has called on nuclear arsenals possessed by China and Russia as meager. Let's in fact listen in to what he's had to say.
Well, I think the president's truth speaks for itself. We have a big arsenal, obviously. The Russians have a large nuclear arsenal. The Chinese have a large nuclear arsenal. Sometimes you've got to test it to make sure that it's functioning and working properly. We've been working very closely, even with nations that we don't have the best relations with, to try to limit nuclear proliferation. The president's going to keep on working on that, but it's an important part of American national security to make sure that this nuclear arsenal we have actually functions properly, and that's part of a testing regime. To be clear, we know that it does work properly, but you got to keep on top of it over time, and the president just wants to make sure.
With us on the broadcast is Lev Aaron, senior journalist, joining us from Israel. Thank you so much for taking out time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Interesting statement coming in from J.D. Vance. We'd earlier seen Donald Trump as well come out and remark that China is far behind in this particular race. It's primarily Russia that also holds a stockpile as big as the United States of America. I wanted to understand from you, is this a mere posturing, mere signaling, or what exactly is the message that the United States is now sending with this?
Thank you. First of all, thank you for having me. Uh, I believe that Iran wants to grab a lot of attention because Iran was humiliated during the 12 days war. We saw the intelligence penetration of Israel into Iran. We saw the Tehran dwellers simply run away from the capital city of Iran. So it seems that on one hand, of course, Iran wants to learn the lessons from this war, that it was humiliated. But on the other hand, because of, desi domestic reasons, it wants to show that Iran is preparing for a new war with Israel.
Indeed, and we've seen a statement also from the Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi. He's called the US's plan to resume tests as regressive and irresponsible. We do know Iran is facing sanctions for pursuing its own nuclear program. Iran, on one hand, insists that it is a peaceful program. Do you think this is some sort of a double speak from the Iranian side then?
Not only Iranians, we see that countries like Iran or like Qatar and most of the Middle East, there is a very strong doublespeak. You see that even in Sunni moderate countries, when they go to when they go to TV or radio or internet, they will scold Israel. But chup chup, they will have great relationship with the Israeli intelligence. So in the Middle East, you cannot really bank on what people say openly. You need to delve into the true interests of each and every country.
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And I also want to understand from you, the US, of course, has not ratified the Comprehensive Test Ban Treaty that had come about in 1996. In light of this, what do you think, what in your perspective, does it then augur for other countries to criticize the United States of America?
Look, right now, I believe that most of the countries in the Middle East, and also it includes Israel, they are very careful not to walk over the red lines of Donald Trump. And even Iran is careful. Israel is very careful also. Also, the hostages that came back, it was not something that our government did. It is something that was a red line of Trump, Kushner, and so on. So I believe that right now, because Trump is so unpredictable, most of the countries want to be on his side, or at least to be very careful. And some countries are true champions of America.
Indeed, I request you to stay on with us as we're tracking some more updates, this time from the Middle East. We're now learning that Israel has stated that it has identified the remains of hostages Amiram Cooper and Sahar Baruch, whose bodies were returned by Hamas earlier in the day. The statement has come from Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office. It emphasizes that the families of the deceased men have been informed after the completion of the identification process by the National Institute of Forensic Medicine. Hamas had earlier handed over the two bodies of the deceased Israeli hostages a day after the Gaza ceasefire was shaken by a series of airstrikes across the enclave. Israel maintains that it was Hamas that had violated the ceasefire by firing upon its troops, which had resulted in the death of a 37-year-old IDF soldier. Hamas has so far returned the remains of 17 of the 28 deceased hostages that it had agreed to hand over as part of the truce deal that was brokered by the United States of America. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Lev Aaron. Critics are pointing out that Hamas has been stalling. Hamas maintains that it does require heavy equipment in order to return the bodies of the other deceased that it claims are present in the tunnels, are also present buried under rubble after Israeli bombardment of the last 2 years. Meanwhile, we do know that there is a team from Egypt that is monitoring this entire procedure. There was heavy equipment that was allowed in from the Egyptian side as well in order to facilitate the digging of these bodies, digging out of these bodies from the rubble. Would you agree with the stance that some of the experts have been putting across that Hamas is stalling?
Let's start with something which is crystal clear. Hamas is cheating the international community on a daily basis. They try to say that it is like a Herculean job. It is very complicated and so on, while at least some of the bodies, they know where the bodies are, and they simply want to win some time. So I would not trust Hamas. I would not trust the PR of Hamas. And Hamas will have to be obedient to the agreement that Trump has made. The second thing is, of course, the question, which are the countries that will escort Hamas? If it is Egypt, it is a better news. If it is Qatar and Turkey, it is not good news for Israel, even not for India, let alone Pakistan. So at this stage, we got all the hostages who were alive. And now only a sliver of the Israeli society goes to demonstrations and so on. Also, Israel became more stable. And Hamas is trying to cheat us, but still we see that at least every week, more hostages, more dead hostages are coming back to Israel, praise be.
Speaking of Hamas itself, why, in your assessment, why are they then stalling? What do they have to gain from doing so?
Look, they understand that right now, when they have no hostages who are alive, they know that the leverage on Israel is very small. Of course, also the relatives of the dead hostages, of those who were murdered by Hamas, also they want to see their relatives buried in the Israeli soil. But it is not the same like a mother or a father or a sister who are waiting for hostage who we know that he is alive, because the hostage issue made us destabilized Israel for quite a lot of time, almost 2 years. And now that only a minority of the Israelis see the dead hostages as a very huge topic, Hamas still tries to leverage it and to bring them, one by one, not to bring them all of them. They know that once all hostages are on Israel, they have no leverage, and each time that they will shoot Israel, maybe a new war will start.
There's another development that has come forward. Israel has recently expressed apprehensions on the presence of Turkish troops as part of the international coalition. We do know that this is something that has been mooted by Donald Trump under his peace plan. The formation of an international coalition with the involvement of US's Arab partners, including Egypt, including UAE, including Qatar, as well as Turkey, to monitor the situation in Gaza as far as post-war reconstruction is concerned. What is Israel's primary concern with Turkey? Because Turkey was involved in bringing about this deal as well as a mediator. What is Israel's concern with Erdogan's position in particular?
Look, we have a real dilemma here because on one hand, Turkey, Qatar, and Pakistan are not friends of Israel. We don't want to see them in Gaza. No way. On the other hand, we don't want to lose Donald Trump. We cannot walk over the red lines that Donald Trump gave us. So in this sense, if Donald Trump, who has now excellent relationship with Qatar and Pakistan and Turkey, if he tells us that he wants, or at least he agrees, to Qataris, Turkish and Pakistani soldiers inside Gaza, we will have a huge dilemma. Can we say no? Can't we say no? Right now, it doesn't seem like we have enough independent foreign policy to say no to any of the red lines that Trump will give us.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time sharing your analysis with us on NewsX World today. Meanwhile, viewers, in a major diplomatic shift, Afghanistan and Pakistan have now agreed to resume peace talks in Istanbul on the 6th of November. Turkey's foreign ministry has announced that both sides have also committed to maintaining a ceasefire until the talks begin. The statement details on how the ceasefire will be implemented. It will be discussed at a high-level meeting in Istanbul. In fact, Turkey and Qatar are jointly mediating the process after recent clashes had taken place along the Afghan-Pakistan border that stretches 2,600 kilometers. The strikes had taken place earlier this month. The situation escalated, and it was Qatar that had mediated first, and a temporary fragile truce was reached on the 19th of October. Meanwhile, the international community is closely watching this development, hoping that it marks a step towards lasting stability in the region. With us on the broadcast is Major General Sudhakarji, Senior Geopolitical and Strategic Defense Expert, joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Of course, we've been discussing over the last couple of days how it was this one last-minute phone call from Islamabad that had resulted in the Pakistani delegation's abrupt U-turn as a deal was about to be finalized. But it now seems that the mediators, both Turkey and Qatar, have managed to convince Afghans and Pakistanis to come back to the negotiating table in Istanbul on the 6th of November. But this border tiff that has taken place, the escalation that has taken place, is rooted in a long-standing conflict, a long-standing denial by the Afghan side of the Durand line. So even if a deal is reached, do you think then that the hostilities would not resume in the future, or is there a possibility of that still happening?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for getting me for your morning show. And to answer your question straight away, all I would say, hope is everything in human life and the universe. And peace is such a eluding factor today that despite all challenges, we should continue to remain optimistic. Now, having said that, let me dilate the issue that it's a very, very complex issue between Afghanistan and Pakistan. And often they have sat down together when the conflicts are on, the exchange of fire is going on across the border. They have their track two going on, one sitting at, both the track two teams sitting at either Kabul or in Islamabad. And they have somehow or the other, they managed to bring the violence level down to an acceptable level, and they have carried on. But this time it appears to be as if the raw nerve of self-esteem of a country has been challenged. When I say that raw nerve of the self-esteem of a country, it is the sovereignty of Afghanistan blatantly has been challenged by aerial violation, which is in military meaning interpretation, it means that the conflict is on. It's the total disregard and disrespect to the sovereignty of a country. So therefore, I would say that while on one hand, everything seems to be bleak, there is no sign, no light at the end of the tunnel, yet there is no harm in trying. And the second point I would like to highlight is that these are happening to a design. There is a greater plan. And the greater plan is Donald Trump as an individual. He's averse to any kind of conflict. He doesn't like war. He wants peace. He wants to make business. And business cannot go on if there is an ongoing conflict. And at the moment, he's looking for places which will afford him or give him adequate rare earth element, minerals, critical minerals, as also given the dominance which they lost out in a haphazard withdrawal way back in 2021, whether it is Middle East or Southeast Asia or East Asia. So they want to get back and give a pushback to the Chinese penetration, which has already happened. They are fully deeply entrenched. So you may call it in short as a strategic rivalry between USA and China. And in order to fulfill that agenda or hidden objective, they would like to have peace. They would like USA to restore their status quo of dominance in Bagram airfield and also dominance in Afghanistan so as to deny further penetration of China, be it for the rare earth element or for the minerals or for harnessing or harvesting of gas, liquid natural gas, which is fourth largest in Turkmenistan, or the expansion of the BRI project, which is taken a very, I would say, discouraging beating rather across Pakistan from Kashgar to Gwadar. They've spent a lot of money, but I doubt if CPEC will see the light at the end of the tunnel. So put together, this is always, you have to give chance to the hope and optimism, and keep trying best to get peace and normalcy back to this area. As such, Taliban is already indicated to USA they would like to play ball and with the major engagement in the geopolitical challenges with USA, and they would like to focus on the country's socio-economic development. Taliban as a force in Afghanistan today are averse to any kind of conflict with anyone. But if push comes to shove, if the self-esteem of a nation or the sovereignty is challenged, well, they will be pushed to a corner wherein they have to take recourse to violent measure, and they will give a pushback to Pakistan to the best of their satisfaction. Back to you, Pia.
All right, sir. With that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, of course, providing that perspective to all of our viewers. We're tracking more news, this time as far as Hurricane Melissa is concerned. We're now learning that Hurricane Melissa's death toll has climbed to 49 after wreaking destruction across much of the northern Caribbean and picking up speed as it headed past the Bermuda in the North Atlantic. Haiti has suffered days of torrential rains from the slow-moving storm and has reported at least 30 deaths and 20 missing cases. Meanwhile, Jamaica's information minister has confirmed that at least 19 deaths in the region have taken place and that rescue and search efforts continue. The storm has reportedly left hundreds of thousands without power, roofs of buildings have been ripped apart, and fields are also scattered with rubble. You can see those visuals, they speak for themselves. Amid all this chaos and destruction, several tourists are stranded in Jamaica. Let's listen in to what they've had to say.
The storm was bad, devastated. It was very bad. Every roof was off the house, every roof. It didn't spare nobody. Every tree was off, all the trees, everything, every building. It was devastated. It's not good. No light, no water. I want to go back to New York. I want to go home. I got enough of this. It's a lot.
I went into Kingston for the storm, came back to get some stuff yesterday. It took me 6 hours. It took me at least 6 hours to get back to Montego Bay from Kingston yesterday. The highway was closed. You had some other blockage of road and trees falling down, water puddles and stuff. So we got back, it was okay. Then we've got petrol issues. I still haven't got any petrol going back into Falmouth. We're trying to get as close as possible. Montego Bay hasn't got any petrol. Most of the petrol stations are down. So yeah, it's just kind of just a bit difficult. I don't think the local police are any help, to be honest. Being abroad or foreign, it doesn't really help you either. So it's just hard, just trying to find your way around. No signal, no data. And that's just kind of, yeah, that's just it, to be honest.
More news coming in, this time from the United Kingdom. We're now learning that King Charles III has stripped his brother, Prince Andrew, of his royal titles and has removed him from his long-time home on the Windsor estate following the scandal surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew will now be known as Andrew Mountbatten Windsor and has been ordered to move outside of Windsor Castle. This move follows renewed accusations of sexual assault by Andrew, who was denied these claims. Andrew agreed to pay millions to victim Virginia Giuffre in 2022 in order to end her lawsuit. Meanwhile, public outrage over the scandal has grown, especially after revelations about Andrew's connections to Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. Andrew is expected to relocate to Sandringham, funded privately by Charles. At the same time, Australia's Prime Minister stated that he respects King Charles' decision, calling it a matter for His Majesty to deliberate upon. Listen in.
That's all a matter for His Majesty, but I think His Majesty King Charles can make decisions without the benefit of my advice, I think is probably the correct answer to that. And they work through those things. We respect decisions that are made by the royal family.
News coming in this time from Tanzania. We're now learning that Tanzania has extended the lockdown a day after elections turned into violent chaos. Soldiers and police officials were seen guarding the main roads in the country's biggest city. Unconfirmed reports coming from the country have informed of several deaths during the protests. There are allegations against President Samia Suluhu Hassan of solidifying her grip over power and contesting the polls virtually unchallenged, as many opposition leaders have either been jailed or barred from contesting the elections. This all has sparked violence in the country. On the day of the polls, hundreds took to the streets, tearing down of posters and attacking a police station as well. As the lockdown was extended, tourists were seen stranded at airports since flights were cancelled as well. The government spokesperson has informed that schools would remain shut and civil servants would work from home. However, an internet blackout was partially lifted earlier, with limits still imposed on international calls. Well, viewers, due to paucity of time, this is all we have for this bulletin. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.